The daughter of the company owner asked to meet with me. She wanted to give me a sum of money to ask me to leave my boyfriend, Lucas. She said, "You have been together for so long. He doesn't want to hurt you. Then let me be the bad guy. As long as you are willing to separate from him, I will give you 5 million, without waiting for her to persuade me further." I looked up and calmly asked, "Can I get a lawyer to write a gift contract?" Sophia's eyes widened. She looked at me in disbelief, as if I were the one who had let her down. "You agreed so easily. For 5 million, you gave up your 8 years of relationship so decisively. You don't deserve his love." I felt a little amused. Wasn't this exactly the ending she had hoped for? She knew full well that Lucas and I had been in a relationship for 8 years. We were getting married at the end of the year. But in front of the whole company, she said she wanted a fair fight with me. The day she arrived at the company, since then, the department head and colleagues have looked at me with mixed feelings. Some with pity, and some with amusement. Because of her, my promotion prospects in the company have basically been blocked. Lucas was promoted 2 levels and became the head of the project department. The fairness mentioned by those in high positions is really ironic. At that time, I firmly believed that my relationship with Lucas could withstand any test. He did firmly reject her advances many times, and even told me that if she continued to pester him, he might consider changing jobs. A socialite like her, who had no backbone, wouldn't last long. She'd give up when she found a new target. His salary had tripled. He'd rather keep his job than risk losing it. To avoid suspicion, he turned down social engagements where Sophia would be present. But the reason for his promotion was so conspicuous. No one dared say anything in public. But secretly, some people were definitely dissatisfied. In order to gain a foothold as soon as possible, he worked overtime every day. Sophia volunteered to be transferred to work under him, completely letting go of her high-and-mighty attitude. "I'm not in the same department as they are. I just happen to see them occasionally when they discuss projects. Sometimes they argue fiercely, refusing to give in to each other. Sometimes they just smile at each other, appreciating each other." Lucas's opinion of Sophia changed. From thinking she was empty-headed to thinking she was quite thoughtful and clever. I feel a little uncomfortable. He immediately notices my mood. "What's wrong? Are you jealous?" "That's rare for so many years. I've always been the jealous one. Now it's finally your turn. Come on, let me smell. Is it sour?" He laughs heartily, teasing me. His eyes are full of obvious love. It's as warm as the sun. I laugh at myself for being paranoid. People often say, people who are close to each other have a better chance. A colleague warned me to be careful. I laughed and said, "I trust Lucas, to be more precise. I trust our 8 years of relationship. It won't be shaken easily." In retrospect, I was really naive. It was 3 months ago on a weekend. Lucas was still working overtime at the company. I got up early in the morning. I prepared a hearty lunch box with great care. I also stewed a nourishing soup for 2 hours. Then I delivered it to the company. Through the translucent glass door of the meeting room, I saw a young man and woman sitting very close together. Lucas had his head down. He was talking intently. Sophia was looking intently at his face. Lucas was leaning very close to her, so close that if he had tilted his head just a little, he would have kissed her. I don't know why I didn't just push the door open and go in, interrupt their flirtatious mood. I just stood there, dumbfounded. Lucas turned his head. His lips accidentally touched Sophia's red lips. His eyes widened instantly. His eyes were full of surprise, embarrassment, and panic, but there was no disgust. Sophia smiled like a pleased little fox. She pointed at his red face. Lucas pretended to be angry. He lightly tapped her head. He looked up. Our gazes met. I could clearly see that there was still a trace of a smile in his eyes. It seemed that he wasn't disgusted by the kiss. I even kind of liked the feeling. At that moment, I had a complex mix of emotions. It was like watching a pure love movie that passed by in a hurry. It was also like experiencing a nightmare. I only remember Lucas's face turning pale. Panicked, he pushed Sophia away and ran towards me. He took me into his office. Stammering, he explained to me. He kept saying, "It's not what you think. It was just an accident, trust me." Okay, he seemed unsure whether he was trying to convince me or himself. In fact, he knew exactly what I really cared about. It wasn't just a chance kiss. It was his wavering heart. I forced a smile. I took out a tissue and helped him wipe the cold sweat from his forehead. "I believe you." He didn't understand how hard it was for me to say those 4 words. I knew in my heart I was lying to myself, but at that time, I really had no choice. Otherwise, I'm sure I couldn't have held on. Sophia only needed less than 2 months. She tore an irreparable rift in our 8 years of relationship. My trust was nothing but a joke. It was like standing on the edge of a cliff. The slightest inattention could lead to a fall. The tension of that feeling and the urge to jump off the cliff without thinking were fighting in my head. My head was pounding. My heart was beating so fast it felt like it was going to explode. I wanted to destroy everything. I wanted to go crazy. I wanted to tear something apart. I wanted to scream. But in the end, I just said coldly to Lucas, I trust you. I instinctively chose to escape, although I knew in my heart that the relationship was over. I am a calm person. I don't like arguing with people. I'm not used to laughing a lot. When I'm angry, I don't get emotional. When I'm happy, I don't get particularly excited. I usually don't show my emotions. I'm always calm and indifferent. My family often says I have a long face all day. People I don't know well think I'm putting on an act. But Lucas is different. He understands me, just as I understand him. I'm sure this reassured him, but it made him even more nervous. He stopped working overtime with Sophia alone. Except for necessary communication at work, he always avoided contact with her. I noticed this. I comforted myself mentally. Look, he still loves me. My 8 years of youth have not been in vain. Right, Lucas and I got back together. His indifference did not discourage Sophia. Instead, it made her more proactive. She deliberately arranged a business trip for the two of them. The night before departure, Lucas finished packing and suddenly asked me, Honey, you think I should quit my job? Is that okay? I was a little helpless. Why are you asking me? What do you expect me to say? If he really wanted to change jobs, he wouldn't have put it off until now. As far as I know, 2 good companies in the industry have made him offers, but he can always find fault with the other party. He wants to make sure I understand that his decision is not based on personal reasons, but is well thought out. Lucas's smile seems forced, because you haven't smiled at me in a long time. We are both very tired, both he or me. I couldn't smile. I could only lean into his arms and hug him, whispering, Give me some more time. Okay, we hadn't been close for a few days. Even hugs felt a little awkward. I tightened my hands. With a coquettish tone, I said, I heard that there is a temple over there with a very effective matchmaking charm. I want to go. I sensed my attitude softening. Lucas's eyes lit up. Hugging me tightly, he said, Okay, I'll go and pray. I'll pray to the matchmaker to bless our marriage. And we'll grow old together. PFFT. Who said you're my husband? We're not even married yet. I don't care. You promised me when you were 18. You can't go back on your word. 18-year-old Emily, full of dreams of growing old with her lover, never to be parted. 26-year-old Emily still wants to trust her lover. But in the end, she is betrayed. Lucas returned from a business trip. He gave me a love charm. He told me he had already had it out with Sophia, sure enough. The next day at work, Sophia was transferred out of the project department. Everything seemed to have returned to normal, but I always felt uneasy. It was like the calm before the storm. It made people feel inexplicably uneasy. It wasn't until Lucas severely lectured a wealthy heir who was pestering Sophia at her reception that the stone in my heart finally dropped. Although I wasn't there, a colleague filmed the heroic rescue and sent it to me. In the video, Lucas is furious, like a lion in heat. He knocks the man down with one punch and quickly pulls Sophia away from him. He asks coldly, Who do you think you are to touch her? Sophia stands behind my boyfriend, her hands gripping his arm. She looks particularly vulnerable, like a little girl, depending on him. Perhaps the colleague filming the video also felt that the scene was inappropriate. So the video stopped here. That night, Lucas didn't go home. The next day, he called me into his office. He had changed his clothes. He didn't even dare to look at me. He said, Sophia was shocked. I took her to the hospital last night. I really wanted to ask, doesn't she have parents? Why was he the one who stayed with her all night at the hospital? But I felt so angry. I opened my mouth, but I couldn't say a word. He said, There's nothing between her and me. Don't get the wrong idea. I wanted to believe him. We knew each other too well. Every nuance of his expression told me he was lying. He was hiding something. Lucas, let's just end it. Let's break up peacefully. I managed to say those words. I want to spare each other's feelings. Lucas looked at me in disbelief. His eyes were full of surprise, confusion, and anger. Emily, how can you say something like that? All this time to put your mind at ease, I haven't done enough. How can you be so heartless, breaking up like this? As colleagues, if anyone is harassed, I will help. Can you stop thinking irrationally and stop being unreasonable? I know you can't get over that kiss. But I told you, it was an accident. How long are you going to hold on to it? The innocent are always the clearest. I don't want to explain this anymore. Believe it or not, we're getting married soon. I hope you can be reasonable. At that time, he spoke with a particularly firm tone. It made me start to doubt myself. Is that really the case? Did I do something wrong? Did I not give him enough trust? I'm not very good at arguing. I could only choose to remain silent. My hesitation soon came to an end. From that day on, Lucas stopped deliberately keeping his distance. Sophia also returned to him. He started working overtime frequently, attending all kinds of social engagements. He came home later and later every day. He hoped that I would take the initiative to admit my fault and admit that his feelings remained unchanged. In this way, he could prove that he had not let our relationship down. However, what he didn't expect was Sophia had sent me a record of all their conversations. I was able to witness the whole process of my boyfriend falling in love with another woman. The first time Sophia confessed her feelings to him, his reaction was very cold. He said, "Sophia, I love my girlfriend very much. Please respect yourself." Sophia sent a cute emoticon of a teddy bear. Then she said, "I like to take on difficult challenges." Later, they started working together. Every night, Sophia used work as an excuse, talking with him late into the night. At first, he only replied with a few simple words. Slowly, he started to reply in more detail. The two hit it off. At that time, he often stayed up late in his study. Gradually, their conversations moved from work to life. They discovered that they both loved extreme sports. They loved the feeling of excitement. He complained to her, "Emily is great in every way, but she's so boring. She acts like an old person when we go out. She can't stand the slightest bit of excitement." She cooed to him, "Let's go together next time. I want to try bungee jumping." Lucas didn't answer her directly. Instead, he changed the subject. This happened after I accidentally saw them kiss unexpectedly. Sophia continued to press. "You obviously have feelings for me too. Why are you lying to yourself?" Lucas responded simply, "I love Emily. I can't live without her. In the future, apart from work matters, don't contact me again." Later, Sophia sent dozens of messages, but he didn't reply. It wasn't until they were on a business trip together that she asked, "Where have you been?" Emily wanted to go to Valentine's Day to pray for a marriage amulet. She was a little shy. "Lucas, what happened between us last night, what exactly does it count as?" "It was just an accident. An accident, and I had sex. You can hide it from her, but can you hide it from your own heart? She and I are getting married soon. I can't let her down. She only has me now, so you can do this to me. Fine. Very well. I hope you won't regret it." He said earlier that he wanted to clear things up with Sophia. In fact, after having sex with her, he used me as an excuse. What made me even more disgusted was the marriage charm. It was actually the day after they had sex. They went to the temple together to pray for it. Seeing all this, I almost threw up. Later on, Sophia, in an attempt to upset Lucas, went out of her way to get close to the famous wealthy heir playboy in their circle. Lucas, as expected, took the bait. He started to worry, and on the night of his heroic rescue, the two reconciled. The hospital companion actually took place in Sophia's room. Just 5 minutes before Lucas explained to me, Sophia sent him a photo. In the photo, she was wearing his shirt. She asked, "Why didn't you wake me up? Be good. I've prepared breakfast. Remember to eat." I still can't figure it out. How did he manage to coax his lover while pretending to be so affectionate in front of me? I carefully read through all the chat messages sent by Sophia, those provocative words. Fortunately, I remained calm enough. It seems my brain has once again activated the protection mode. I didn't listen to a word Sophia said in front of me. I didn't hear a word she said. I was in a daze. Then she said suddenly, "If you break up with him, I'll give you 5 million. 5 million. When I confirmed that Lucas had really betrayed me, he was already as good as dead in my heart. The relationship was already on shaky ground. To exchange it for 5 million, it was really a good deal. So I don't understand. I got the money. Sophia got what she wanted. Why is she still angry? I thought absent-mindedly. Sure enough, the thinking of ordinary people is completely different from that of people in love, in her eyes. A man who betrayed her. Instead, I was unworthy of his love. I didn't quite understand, but to be honest, I kind of regretted it. I should have shown more concern for Lucas. Although I didn't mean to take advantage of the opportunity to ask for more money, but I agreed too quickly. I always felt uneasy about taking the 5 million. If Missy gets angry and refuses to cooperate, what then? I blinked hard, but I didn't cry. I had to speak in a low voice. "Sophia, do you know why I agreed?" Do you think I did it for the money? Do you think I'm the kind of person who only cares about appearances? He can't bear to hurt me. How can I bear to let him miss true love and regret it for the rest of his life? Sophia's expression changed. True love, of course, over this period of time. I have seen his pain. We have been together for so long. We are like family. Only you can make him truly happy. I almost believed what I said myself. I decided to let go and let you two be together, you know. Lucas is a good person. If I break up with him directly, he definitely won't agree. He will feel guilty and feel sorry for me. In that case, it would be hard on all three of us. So I decided to take the money and leave. Let him know that I had let go, and he could start a new relationship without any worries. Perhaps it was my sincere expression that finally made the young lady feel a little bit sorry. She added another $1 million to the offer. That was really nice. One has some minor flaws. They complement each other. The $6 million would compensate for the 8 years of hard work and feelings I had invested. Sophia and I had already agreed. We'll go sign the contract with her lawyer tomorrow. As soon as the money arrives, I'll resign immediately. Leave Lucas. Leave this city where I've been drifting for 8 years. Go home. Find that Lucas is not there. His parents paid the down payment on this house. He makes the monthly mortgage payments. My salary goes entirely to our daily expenses. Clothing, food, housing, transportation, and all kinds of social engagements. Everything costs money. If Sophia hadn't proposed the deal, I would probably still be arguing with Lucas about the profit. Now I just want to get the money and go. Even looking at them makes me feel bad. I'm going to leave. Just a few suitcases. I don't want anything else. It's been less than 3 hours since Sophia confessed to me. The sun's last rays have disappeared below the horizon. The room is pitch black. I haven't turned on the lights. I suddenly feel weak. My body is stiff, so heavy I can't move. I lie quietly in bed. The house is empty. The silence is unnerving. It feels like a dream. Memories of the past 8 years come flooding back. Tears suddenly well up. They run down my cheeks and into my hair. My pent-up emotions erupt like a volcano. A sharp pain spreads from my heart to my whole body. It feels like it's tearing me apart. I'm in a daze. I can't feel the passage of time. I got tired of crying. I fell asleep and woke up again. I stayed awake until dawn. Lucas still hadn't come home. There was only one message on the phone. He said he had to go on a business trip for a week. He asked me to calm down during that time and to take the wedding photos with him when he came back. But the irony was, Sophia sent me a photo of them on holiday on the beach. In a week's time, you should have sorted it out by now. I suddenly felt relieved. No matter how deep the pain, just thinking about the huge number of 5 million can calm my heart. I simply replied one to Sophia and immediately blacklisted Lucas. That night, I packed up and moved. But before I left, I set a timer on their shameful chat history and sent it to everyone in the company. I left New York, where I had lived for 8 years, heading north. I finally chose to settle down in Miami, a third-tier beach city. I mentioned this to Lucas many times. After we retire, we'll move to this city to spend our old age. But he never took it seriously. He said, let's talk about it later. We're still young. We should work hard. We still have decades ahead of us. I never thought my dream would come true so soon. I've never been very driven. For the past 8 years, Lucas has been the one pushing me. We both applied to the same university in the same city, and then we both joined the same company. He really is a wonderful person. He's always helped me become a better person. I hate that he betrayed our relationship, but I'm also grateful to him. If it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't be alive 8 years ago. I never imagined that this accident would actually make me retire early. I didn't use an agent. I spent 2 days walking around the city center, and I found a satisfactory house. It was a 10-year-old 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom second-hand house. The full price was over $1 million. It was ready to move in. When I was 26 years old, I finally had my own home. Lucas had also returned from a business trip. He tried all the contact methods I had blocked. He couldn't find me. I didn't answer any unfamiliar calls. He borrowed Sophia's phone and called me. When I heard the voice, it was still familiar. It was slightly hoarse. It came from the other end of the line. For a moment, it felt like time had stood still. It was like a long-lost friend. We had been planning our future together not long ago, in the blink of an eye. It had been less than 6 months. Everything had changed. Emily, where are you now? That's not important. Is there something you want on the other end of the line? His breathing became rapid. How could it not be important? Do you know how worried I was when I got home and found that all your things were gone? and I couldn't find you. Do you know how worried I was? I asked him calmly. Lucas, who are you to question me? He was silent for a while. Then he said, I'm your boyfriend. I laughed. And Sophia, didn't she tell you? I actually know everything. This time he was silent for a long time. Then he spoke with difficulty. I admit I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I just want to spend one more week with her. Then it's over for good. I've already made it clear to her. I'll sell the house we're in. I'll pay her back the $6 million. And then I'll quit my job. I'll come to you. We'll start again. Okay, no. Leftovers that have been thrown in the bin. There's no point in picking them up and eating them again. I don't know what happened between them. I only know that after I hung up the phone, Lucas never contacted me again. A former colleague told me he didn't actually quit his job. Instead, he openly started a relationship with Sophia in the office. None of this concerns me anymore. I have already received the $6 million according to the contract, and I have broken up with Lucas as agreed. I can take the money without a guilty conscience. Don't expect me to return it. Sometimes, however, the feeling of sadness still comes over me suddenly. I know this is the withdrawal reaction after the sudden end of 8 years of relationship. I have the patience to let time slowly heal the wound. When I received my mother's call, I was curled up on the sofa watching a movie. I hadn't saved her number, but I had memorized the digits. When I saw the caller ID, I shuddered involuntarily. My heart raced. I stared at the screen when she called a third time. I took a deep breath. I picked up the phone. Emily, what are you doing? Lucas told me you broke up. What happened? He just got promoted to manager. You're such a catch. You should get married. What on earth are you thinking? She went on with her usual cliches. I interrupted her. Lucas has a mistress. She froze for a moment, but quickly recovered. Aren't men all the same? Just keep an eye on his money after you get married, as long as he remembers to come home when he's had enough fun. You always say you want a divorce so easily. You'll miss him. And what good man will accept you in the future? You've been together for 8 years. To be honest, it's almost like a second marriage. I can hear the tone of his voice. He still cares about you quite a bit. You've caused enough trouble these past few days. Men all love their face. You should give him a way out. You should make up. I don't understand how she can say these things so matter-of-factly. My father and the woman next door had a few more words. She then took a knife and blocked the door. The other person was so scared that they moved out that night. Ever since I was little, they never stopped fighting. At first, I was so scared that I cried, but she hit me with a tree branch and called me a crybaby. She said I was crying away all the blessings in life. I was afraid to laugh. Otherwise, I would get a slap in the face. I was told I was always smiling. I suppressed my emotions. I didn't live like a normal person. That summer after the college entrance exams, they had another big fight. They even talked about divorce. They pointed at me and said, if it weren't for you, I would have split up with him a long time ago. If it weren't for you, I would never have married your mother. I was used to being the target of their mutual recriminations. The worst scenes from a marriage were repeated over and over in my life. It was really boring. I left home when they started to trash the house. I walked to the river. I walked slowly forward. The river water reached my waist. It flooded past my chest. I can't swim. I didn't struggle. I just let myself sink. It was Lucas who jumped into the river and rescued me. He lives in the same neighborhood as me. He knows about my family, he said. Emily, come away with me. Let's get out of here. I like you. I'll give you a home. I don't believe in love, and I don't believe in marriage, but I long for a home, a normal, warm home. I agreed to be his girlfriend for 8 years. He was very good to me. He never complained about my strange temper. He always encouraged me and supported me. Gradually, I opened up. I could communicate normally with people, and I fell in love with him. I thought I could welcome happiness, but he betrayed me nowadays. I no longer have expectations of anyone, but when I heard my mother say those words, my heart still ached. I will not get back together with him. Do you have anything else to do? I really can't do anything about your stubbornness. It's as if I owe you from a previous life. I remain silent. In the end, the other person speaks first. Lucas said you quit your job. Where are you now? You don't need to know. What do you mean? I'm your mother. How can you talk to me like that? You're so ungrateful. I turn the volume of the phone down to the lowest setting. I close my eyes. There is no response from the other end of the line. Instead, she started sending me messages nonstop. I switched on message blocking. I didn't even open the chat window. It got quiet, but I felt like I was back that day when the river flooded. That indescribable pain. My heart felt like it was being squeezed. All the beauty in the world had nothing to do with me. I felt like a ghost cut off from the world. After leaving home, I walked aimlessly to the beach. The moon tonight was exceptionally beautiful. The moonlight shone on the sea. It sparkled. I was already 26 years old, but I still couldn't swim. I only took 2 steps into the sea, then I stopped. The seawater gently lapped at my calves. Suddenly, a gentle voice sounded behind me. "Hello, do you need any help?" I turned around. A young man stood a few steps away from me. He was looking at me with concern. I froze for a moment, then I understood. He thought I was going to do something stupid. I appreciated his kindness. I smiled sincerely. "Thank you. I'm fine. Don't worry. I'm not the impulsive person I used to be. I won't do anything irrational." But this kind person still seemed a little worried about me. "From the sound of your accent, you don't seem like a local. Are you here for a visit?" "Well, I'm from the South. I plan to settle here, I see. I'm a first-year student at H University. I'm also from here. Let's exchange contact information. If you need any help, you can find me." And with that, this helpful student pulled out his phone. He scanned his QR code. I'm not very good at dealing with such enthusiastic people, but I don't find them annoying. We exchanged contact information. It looked like he wanted to stay and chat with me, so I quickly found an excuse and headed home. The little upset I felt in my heart was blown away by the sea breeze. Coupled with the interruption from this Alexander, the little unpleasant feeling in my heart completely disappeared. I only found out later. The male dormitory of H University is near that beach. For 10 consecutive days, I didn't have the courage to go there. I saw Alexander again. It was at the supermarket downstairs in the community. I usually like to stay at home, so I buy enough for a week at a time every time I go shopping. This time I accidentally bought too much. I was carrying 4 big shopping bags in both hands. They were so heavy that I had to stop and rest every few steps, just like the other night when he suddenly appeared. He came up from behind, in the midst of my surprise. He took my bags and said, "Let me help you." In the daytime, he had a sunny smile on his face. His skin was tanned. He had bushy eyebrows and big eyes. He looked particularly energetic. His appearance was completely different from Luca's delicate temperament. He was more masculine and handsome. My heart suddenly skipped a beat, but it soon calmed down. "Thanks. I'll carry the bags myself." Alexander smiled and avoided my outstretched hand. "It's fine. Carrying these bags is a piece of cake for me. It's no effort at all." After he dropped me off at home, I realized that his home was right downstairs. However, he usually lives on campus. He only comes back on weekends. "Oh, I see. I'm not very good at small talk." In the short walk of a few hundred meters, I learned everything about his family, the number of people living at home, and the breed of his dog, but I had nothing to say in return. I could only mumble and stammer. If someone else had been in my shoes, they would have probably been discouraged by my cold attitude. But Alexander didn't seem to mind. Instead, he said half jokingly, half seriously, "Maybe it's just as well. Ah, look, you didn't contact me and you didn't go to the beach, but we still ran into each other. What a coincidence. Maybe." Alexander and I looked at each other for a few seconds. He scratched his hair a little frustrated. Then he looked at me helplessly. "Forget it. I might as well just say it. I want to pursue you. Is that okay? To be honest, I kind of have a feeling, but I'm afraid I'm overthinking it." I didn't expect him to ask so directly. "Why? We've only met twice. Isn't this a bit too soon?" Alexander shakes his head. "I don't really understand it either. It's just a feeling I have in my heart. I don't want to regret it later, and I don't want to leave any regrets." He continues, "If I don't say something, you probably won't go out on weekends anymore, just like you'll never go to that beach again." I was a little surprised by his sensitivity. I felt a little uncomfortable, but I rejected him. "I'm sorry. I don't want to fall in love right now." Alexander knew exactly how to handle the situation. After making sure I was sincere in my rejection, he returned to the position of an ordinary neighbor. We occasionally bumped into each other on the street. He would just nod and say hello. The peaceful days were interrupted when Lucas came knocking on my door. I don't know how he found me. I saw him standing in front of my house. Exhausted. My heart, which I had finally managed to mend, was broken once again. I looked at him expressionlessly. I asked coldly, "Why are you here?" He stood in front of me, looking a little uneasy. He forced a smile and said, "I quit my job because I still can't forget you. That's your business. It has nothing to do with me. Please don't bother me anymore." I was about to close the door. He reached out and stopped me. He said, "Come on, Emily. We've been together for 8 years. I can't believe you've forgotten me so quickly. You still love me, right? Lucas, where do you get the nerve?" I couldn't help but frown. When you betrayed me, did you ever consider how I felt? Why should I take you back just because you've come back? You think I'm some kind of junkyard." I've never said such harsh words to him before. Lucas's face was gloomy. He stared at me with anger in his eyes. He said angrily, "Your mother was right. You really are naturally indifferent." As soon as the words came out, he froze for a moment. Then he explained with remorse, "Baby, I didn't mean it like that." I avoided his outstretched hand that wanted to hug me. My tears kept flowing. You see, he knows me too well. A simple sentence like a knife straight into my heart. "What are you doing?" Alexander came up quickly, pulled the person away, blocked in front of me sideways, looked down at me and asked, "Are you okay?" I looked up, wiped away the tears, shook my head slightly and said, "It's fine." Lucas frowned, asked, "Who are you?" The other person answered, "I'm a neighbor who lives nearby." "I'm asking you, what are you doing?" Alexander is very tall, standing in the doorway like a door god. Lucas's originally upright figure looked short and thin next to him. His face also looked less good. "Emily is my girlfriend." "Ex-boyfriend." "Huh, breaking up and still bothering your ex-girlfriend? You're really embarrassing us men. Stay out of it. Mind your own business." Seeing two men on the verge of a fight, I immediately closed the door and locked it behind me. I didn't care about the noise outside. I went into the bedroom. I closed the door. I locked it. Then I climbed into bed. I got under the covers. I let out a deep breath. It had only been a few minutes, but I already felt incredibly tired. I didn't want to think about anything. I just wanted to empty my mind. I drifted off to sleep. I stayed at home for 3 whole days. Every now and then, Alexander would send me a message. He was worried that I might do something stupid, that something might happen to me. Maybe it was the appearance of Lucas that made me feel uneasy. Maybe it was because I was so lonely. I started talking to him. We talked a lot. We talked about my past. We talked about Lucas' betrayal. We discussed the differences between the North and the South. I was living alone in a strange city. The climate, customs, and eating habits were all very different from what I was used to. Alexander was a good listener. He also has a straightforward sense of humor. I want to be friends with him. That would be fun. So on the 3rd day, I let him in. By then, Lucas had already left. I heard from Sophia that he didn't resign of his own accord. The project he was in charge of had gone horribly wrong because of his arrogance. The company had lost a huge amount of money as a result. He was fired. He lost his house and savings. He also owed a lot of money. Sophia wanted to help him, but her father transferred her directly to the foreign branch. He didn't do well there. That's why he came to see me. In fact, he was thinking about the 5 million Sophia gave me. I removed his WeChat from my blacklist. Before he could be happy, I made it clear. "Lucas, don't come looking for me again. If you ever truly loved me, let's end this relationship with dignity." Half an hour later, he sent a message back. "Okay, I wish you happiness." I deliberately prepared a hearty meal for Alexander, who was waiting outside the door. I also stopped avoiding him. Every evening, I went for a walk on the beach. I met him 3 or 4 days a week. Then we walked together. For the first New Year's Eve in this city, he took me to his parents' house. They were a very kind couple. Alexander introduced me to them with some embarrassment, saying I was his friend. The old couple just smiled and welcomed me. The table was full of my favorite dishes. I was immersed in this warm and happy atmosphere. I accidentally drank too much. I fell asleep on the table. Half asleep, I heard them whispering, "Son, you're not doing very well in this situation. After all this time, you're still just friends. You want your father to teach you a few tricks. Don't teach me anything. Son, remember, the most important thing when wooing a girl is sincerity and respect." Oops, I don't need you to teach me. I know what to do. He threw his warm jacket over me. It was so warm. My heart melted like a lump of ice. My mouth curved up. I relaxed and drifted off to sleep. After the new year, I made a decision. I would take the college entrance exam. Lucas helped me choose a major. At the time, I wasn't interested in anything. I didn't care what I studied. But now, I have something I want to study and a goal for the future. Alexander is very supportive of this. He uses the excuse of teaching me his experiences to stay at my place every weekend. Our relationship has always been more than just friends. He introduces me to his classmates and friends, and I have also made some new friends this way. A person is shaped by the environment. Here, my personality has become much more outgoing than before. I no longer feel lonely like I did when I first arrived. However, I didn't try to stop Alexander from gradually integrating into my life. A year later, I successfully passed the postgraduate entrance exam. He brought a group of friends to celebrate with me. After the excitement died down, everyone left. Alexander stayed behind to help me tidy up the rest. He was mainly doing the work, while I just stood around and kept him company. He was almost 9 meters tall. At the moment, he was wearing my pink apron. He wore gloves. He kept his head down and concentrated on washing the dishes. Suddenly, I ask him, "Do you still like me?" I let go of the bowl in my hands. It slips into the water. There's a plop. The sound is exactly like my heartbeat. He stares at me with wide eyes. His gaze is so intense that I can't look away. He swallows. His voice is a little hoarse. Of course, it hasn't changed. "You're 3 years younger than me. People always say that. Older women are wiser. You'll be holding gold bricks. I'll work hard. You'll be holding a lot of gold bricks." I can't help laughing. Say, "I didn't mean it like that." Sigh. "You're younger than me, but I'll be calling you senior in the future. Can I call you something else?" "What else? Boyfriend?" How does it feel? Very willing.